All right. Hello, everyone. So today we are going to learn about research variables, research instruments, and data sources. Introduction to research design. Okay, so by the end of this lesson, you are expected to be able to select and design appropriate research methods and then structure qualitative, quantitative, or mixed methods approaches. And the last one is prepare relevant research designs aligned with specific research problems. This is the three core research approaches. Actually, we already learned about this before. This is just the review. Okay, so the first one is qualitative. Here, you explore the meanings, you explore the experience using interviews, observations, and this is good for you to ask about why and how. Okay, and the second one is quantitative, is to measure variables numerically. Usually you use surveys, experiments, and it's good to ask about how many and how much. And the last one is mixed methods. So this one integrates both approaches, qualitative and quantitative. Okay, all right. So what is actually considered as a good researchers? Okay, of course, the first one is you need to start with a clear questions. Okay, you need to have questions for you to explore, and then you need to understand your goals and then choose the method that best fits. The mistake that students usually make is they choose their method first and then they force the questions. It's not good. It's not so always start from the research problem. Okay, let's go to the first one. So identifying research variables. All right. And what is actually variables? So variable is the characteristic, the factors that can be measured, controlled, or manipulated in a study. Actually, there are three kinds of variables. The first one is independent variables. Okay, so this is the cause, like, okay, what the researchers manipulate. You can manipulate this one and observe this as a predictor. And dependent is the effect, okay, the outcome caused by independent variable. And then the control variable is this is the variable that keeps constant. So to make sure the results are accurate and fair. All right, for example, this is the example. For example, in the social science context, the independent is teaching method. So dependent one is student test scores, and the control is the classroom environment and time of day. Okay, so when you want to design, you need to always ask yourself, okay, how does your independent variable affect the dependent variable? Okay. Okay, let's go to research instruments and also data sources. All right, so for the research instruments and data sources, you can use survey and questionnaires. All right, and then we also have interviews and focus groups, observation and field notes, and documents, and also secondary sources. Okay, so what actually make the tools trustworthy? All right. So actually the key principle is validity and reliability. So before you choose your instrument, it must be valid, measures what is supposed to measure. For example, like if you want to measure writing ability, so don't use a speaking test. And the second one is reliable. So it has to produce consistent results. Like example, if the same student takes the test twice, results should be similar. Okay. And actually, there are primary and secondary data sources. All right. So this is very important when you want to write your research proposal. Okay. So you need to clearly state what data that you're going to use to collect, from where, and then how. So from where is the source and how is the instrument. So the primary data is data that you collect by yourself for your own research. Okay, so you collect the data by yourself. So you collect directly from the participants and design specifically for your research questions. Okay, so you control the questions, the participants, and also the process. But the secondary data is the data that you collect, that data that are collected by someone else, which you use again. So you use existing data. The data already exists before your research and then collected for a different purpose. So you only analyze and use it. For example, like the government reports or journal articles or previous research and company data, right? Okay, so for example, this is the English education research. Okay, instrument data, what instruments and data sources that we can use. All right. So as the primary data, okay, as the data you collect directly from the classroom or the participants, so it can come from real teaching and learning situations. So collected firsthand by the researcher, closely connected to your research topic. For example, like student essays or writing samples, and then classroom observation notes, interview recordings with teachers or students. So this is authentic and real-time data from your study. You go to the classroom and collect the data by yourself. Okay, and for the secondary data, so it's data that already collected by and analyzed by others, right? So you don't collect it. So but you can use like to support your argument, to compare findings and then provide background. For example, like national literacy statistic or published research articles and educational reports. So this is existing knowledge or data, right? Okay, so for example, like for the topic students writing ability in English class. So what can be the primary data is students' essays or observations of writing class and interview with teachers. But secondary data can be journal articles about writing skills or national literacy reports. All right. So how about English for business communication? What can be the data source? All right. Okay. The data sources here can be also like corporate emails, meeting transcripts, and professional presentation. So so the primary data here comes from the real workplace communication. Okay, like so you can be the meetings transcripts. This one is to reveal real spoken interaction, and professional presentations can show language used in formal business contexts. Okay, so you are analyzing authentic communication practices, what people really do in the workplace. And for the secondary data, this is as standards and references. It can provide benchmarks or guidelines to evaluate the primary data, right? For example, like CFR for business, so that can be a standard to assess language level and competence, or corporate communication policies, so that can be rules for the company, like for example, like email ethic. All right. Okay, so what students usually do is, okay, these are common mistakes. So they only describe emails without comparing the two standards. So this one becomes weak analysis. Okay. So the strong one is you need to analyze, you need to compare, and then you need to interpret. All right. So this is the examples of instruments for specialized research instruments. These are called specialized research instruments because they are designed for a specific field, in this case, business professional communication. So they go beyond general tools like basic questionnaires and help you analyze workplace language more precisely. So what makes them specialized? So they are tailored to professional business contexts and focus on real communication performance and often used in applied research like ESP or business English. All right. Okay, so how about the case study instruments? So case studies must be systematic, structured, and evidence-based, not just descriptive. All right. So case study research is like being a detective. You collect evidence from many sources before making a conclusion. So you can use a case study protocol and collect data from multiple sources, for example, like documents, records, or artifacts or observations. And you need to ensure reliability through structure and triangulation. All right? Okay, so this is uh, the discussions about instrument validity and how does the choice of instrument affect validity of data collected? And consider how different instruments capture different types of evidence as discussed by Bryant. All right, so actually validity is not one thing. It includes how well you capture the construct and how accurate responses are and whether conclusions are justified. So instruments don't just collect data, they filter reality. Okay, so each tool strengthens some aspects of validity while weakening others. So you can choose surface. How the implication is like this. You can choose surface when you need to compare uh, when you need comparable measures across many participants and population level claims. And you can use interviews when you need accurate understanding of meanings, processes, and causes. And you can use both mixed methods to balance validity. Survey to for breadth and generalizations, and interview for depth and construct clarity. So how to improve validity for each? Okay, for surface, you can use pilot test items, or you can use validated skills where possible. Okay, and then for the interview, you can use semi-structured practical core questions and prompts. Then you can train interviewers avoid leading questions, and you can record and transcribe and keep an audit trail. So use member checking and triangulation. Okay, so let's just go directly to this one. Okay. Um, let's discuss about mixed methods, superiority. So in what specific research scenario is a mixed methods approach superior to a single method, qualitative or quantitative designs? So mixed method is done better by default, but it becomes clearly superior when a single method cannot answer all parts of your research problem. So the advantage comes from combining breadth quantitative and depth, qualitative, and crucially integrating the two. When you need both what and why, so you must identify a pattern and explain it. Okay, for example, like survey shows a low employee engagement, and the interviews can reveal causes for example, like unclear leadership or workload. So why mix is superior? Because a survey alone tells you there is a problem, but the interviews alone cannot show how widespread it is. But when you combine them together, it can complete explanations. Okay, so when results need validation or triangulations, so there is a situation like this. You want stronger credibility by checking findings from multiple sources. For example, like test scores improve and observations confirm better classroom participation. So why in this case mixed method is superior? Because consistent findings across methods increase validity and trustworthiness. All right. So I think that's all about today's lessons. You can see actually the components of research quality, what can be considered as qualified research. Of course, you need to pay attention to the methodology, to the validity, reliability, and also the ethics. All right. Thank you.